Wonderful. And I will get us moving because we've got lots of information to start right away and spend our hour together. Again, reminder, Q&A is open. The chat is not, but feel free as those questions come up to put them in. And I'm going to turn the stage over to my colleague Hillary. We just realized that we're both in year 18 at Pitt. That we after 18 years, we've now realized that we started at the same time. And so Hillary is our director of Pitt Global Experiences and going to specifically talk to you today about the study abroad experience, global experiences, and welcome her. Thank you, Hillary.
Thanks so much, Summer. And hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. I will share my screen here momentarily and work through some slides, but just to introduce myself so you can see my face. Hillary Kohler. I am the director of the Global Experiences Office here at the University of Pittsburgh. I am also a proud Pitt alum, and so have been really grateful to spend both my student life and a lot of my professional life at this institution. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And please feel free to utilize the Q&A and I will walk us through our presentation for the afternoon. Okay. All right. Are we looking good here, friends, with the screen? Everyone see the
Yes, it
slide?
looks
Okay.
great.
Amazing. All right. So I'm going to just jump right in the interest of time and to make sure we have a lot of time for any questions that may come up here. But just to get us started, our agenda for today, I want to give you all a brief overview of the Global Experiences Office, who we are, what we do, and why we do it. I will also give an overview of our programming, and that'll include some conversation around the types of programs that we offer, the scholarship and financial aid picture for students that are interested in participating in Global Experiences Office programming, and then general kind of high level information about the application process. And then I will also spend some time talking a little bit about how you can help us prepare and support your student in pursuing global experiences opportunities. So I'll talk a bit about health, safety, and security abroad and some resources and some conversation there. So that's what I have planned for today. Please feel free to to ask any questions as we go along, and we will answer some live. We'll also hopefully have some time at the end to answer any additional questions as we get through things. All right, so about the Global Experiences Office, I am the director of our sort of overarching, university-wide experiences in global education, and that includes a number of locations and offices across the University of Pittsburgh Oakland campus. So we have a dedicated office for students in the Dietrich School of Arts and Sciences and College of General Studies, a dedicated office for our School of Business, our Frederick Honors College, our Swanson School of Engineering, and our School of Nursing, as well as representation on all three of our regional campuses, Bradford, Greensburg, and Johnstown. And so together we create the Global Experiences team. There's about 30 full-time staff working in the space at the University of Pittsburgh. We also have a number of really wonderful student ambassadors, and we all have global experience. So we bring that to the table, both from the experience of traveling abroad, navigating some of the challenges and exciting adventures that students will have as they embark on their experience, but then also from the advising perspective and working deeply embedded within our schools and academic units to create really specific and specialized programming for students across their academic disciplines. Our goal is a lofty one, but important to state. And our goal is really that every Pitt student has the opportunity to have a global experience. And so I'll talk a little bit about this in a moment, but really this office and the work that we're doing in partnership with the academic units and schools is redefining what a global experience looks like, what it means. Of course, a lot of our students will choose to have the traditional study abroad experience, but increasingly a lot of additional opportunities for students to have really robust academic global experiences in their time as a University of Pittsburgh student. So what we do, we provide opportunities on campus, off campus, and abroad to allow students to engage directly in global environments. And this looks at a number of different ways. We have programming everywhere from Connellsville, Pennsylvania to Tokyo, Japan, and everything in between. We have domestic study away opportunities. We have wonderful opportunities for students to engage in global projects and campus-based courses with our global partners. So really trying to create a robust portfolio of opportunities for students. The reason that we are doing this is that we want to help broaden students' academic interest areas through specialized programming, and having a really high focus on experiential learning is important to our office. So we want to help students develop technical skills by taking, courses in their academic areas, but also allow them to have direct application of their classroom learning in global environments. And so things like international internships and global consulting projects are a really important part of our portfolio as well. Our office is ultimately here to support students in academic, professional, and personal development through our intentional preparation and active reflection. So we are engaged with students throughout the entire process of the global experience, from the application phase all the way through, you're back now, what happens next? And so we work with students throughout the entirety of their experience and navigating their global experience or their study abroad experience. One of the important things that our team really does is help students articulate the value and benefit of their global experience on their future academic and professional goals and learning. The programs we offer really range in a variety of different ways. And so the largest part of our portfolio, to the surprise of no one most likely, is our international program portfolio. So we have a couple different types of programs that we offer for students. The largest in this bucket is our Pitt developed programs. These are programs that are developed by my office in partnership with our academic partners and University of Pittsburgh faculty. We also have a number of direct exchange programs with really prestigious universities around the world that allow students to participate as an international student abroad for a semester or a full year. And then we have a complementary portfolio of what we call Pitt recognized programs that really are designed to complement the Pitt developed program portfolio option that we have. In addition to our international programs, we do have a number of domestic programs that we call study away programs that are focused on global issues and global comparative analysis that take place in the United States. And then increasingly opportunities for campus-based classroom embedded experience, leveraging our technology and our sort of flipped classroom models to allow for students to have really robust global engagement while they are enrolled in their courses here at the University of Pittsburgh campuses. Why do we do this? Number one, it's a wonderful experience, and I think for those of you that maybe have had a study abroad experience yourselves, can certainly attest to the cultural experience, the growth, the personal development that happens through all of these things. But in addition, from an academic perspective and from a professional development perspective, we know from field-wide research as well as University of Pittsburgh specific data that students who study abroad have higher graduation and employment rates compared with students who do not. We also know that students who study abroad have higher GPAs and that they earn higher starting salaries. And there's often a lot of ongoing conversation between global education and the workforce, and employers state that intercultural skills are a really important part of organizational success and something of value that students can bring as they're embarking on their careers, whether that's with a company in a full-time job, in a graduate program, and really anything in between. All right, I'm going to pause here. I know there's been some questions in the chat. So, Summer, anything we want to answer live, or are we feeling good about where we are right now?
Yes, we have one question push to answer live. Can seniors participate in this program?
Absolutely. It's a really great question. So, just at a high level, short answer is yes. We always advise for students in their final year of study, they'll need to work with their academic department to make sure that, they're understanding, number one, are these courses going to fulfill the needed requirements that they have? In some cases, we'll have students, let's say, choosing to study abroad the spring semester of their final year. We essentially would work with the student and the university to allow them to delay their graduation date until August, which will allow us to have time to get transcripts back and post grades and so on and so forth. So there's some adjustments that would need to be made, I would say, but we work individually with students on navigating through that, but it is certainly possible. There are other programs. So an example would be one of these sort of spring semester embedded programs with spring break travel abroad. We have a few programs that are essentially global project capstone opportunities. And so that's another place that we tend to see students in their final year or two at the university doing a study abroad program. It is self-contained in the University of Pittsburgh spring semester. And so that's a pretty easy way to make that happen. But short answer is yes, that is absolutely an option. I will say that the vast majority of our students will choose to study abroad in their second or third year, and that's just kind of typical and standard. But we do have a number of students in their final year and semester studying abroad at any given, point in time. So that is absolutely possible.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
There is one other question. There's lots of questions in the Q&A, but I'm going to hold them till a little later only because I
Okay.
think there's going to be some great content in your
Yeah.
presentation that will tie into these
Hopefully.
questions. But the other question that relates to the one you just answered is, and maybe you want to expand a little, although I do feel like you covered some of this.
Sure.
If a student chooses to study abroad, will they stay on track to graduate on time?
This is an excellent question. I'll talk a little bit about this, I think, in a few slides, but I will say the goal and sort of the reason that we've structured our office in such a way that it's deeply embedded within our academic units is to create programming that will allow students to continue their forward degree progress and have, the study abroad and international experience. So a lot of our programs have University of Pittsburgh courses that are being taught abroad that are directly applying to the students' degree progress. We work really closely with our academic advisors across campus in our academic units to ensure that students have a number of options to fulfill their requirements. Essentially, our goal would be, you're doing the same thing, you're taking University of Pittsburgh courses, you just happen to be in London for the semester rather than, here in Oakland. So it is entirely our goal, and we work really hard across the university to ensure that students are able to continue to move forward with degree progress and still be able to have this experience. So, certainly it's dependent on individual student situations, but our programs are designed with that very thing in mind to keep students on track for their intended graduation plans.
Excellent. And then we'll answer more of these questions as we move throughout the content.
Awesome. I'll keep moving to the next section, and then, I'll pause again if we have things we want to answer live, but Summer, if anything, mission critical comes up, please just, interrupt me and I'll certainly be happy to answer those. All right, so our next section is a great segue actually, is going to be just an overview of the Global Experiences Office programs that we have for students, just to give you a sense. So the first one I'll talk about here, again, is probably, not probably, it is our most sort of popular option for students participating in Global Experiences programming, and that is our Pitt developed programs. These again are programs that are designed by the Global Experiences Office in partnership with our academic units and University of Pittsburgh faculty. Many of these programs are led by Pitt faculty, particularly our programs in the summer. And these programs carry University of Pittsburgh courses. Students receive University of Pittsburgh credit and letter grades for participation on this program. So again, this model and really purposeful design of programs that allow students to participate in a global experience and keep them on track for their degree requirements, their general education requirements, their major and minor requirements, and everything in between. Students are billed and paid Pitt directly. So this is essentially the exact same mechanism that you would notice with students enrolling in their, standard spring semester on campus. So Pitt Pay is the mechanism there. And program price includes tuition and a program fee. We'll talk a little bit more about costs and pricing a bit later. And then these programs are offered in the semesters as well as in the summer. So this is our, kind of most popular, so to speak, model of programming because they are, again, designed for Pitt students and their academic areas specifically. And so the ease of allowing students to have the global experience and continue to do the things that they need to do for their degree progress is really important in this particular model. We also have these university exchange programs, and so direct partnerships with some of the best universities in the world. Students would earn transfer credits on exchange programs, so a little bit different. They're not earning Pitt letter grades specifically. There's a little bit more engagement with the student's academic department and academic advisors in determining how the academic piece will kind of cover university requirements and so on and so forth. The students will pay their Pitt tuition directly, and then other expenses like housing and things like that are paid individually overseas by the student. But this is another way, the nice thing about this being a university partnership is that there are quite a lot of courses to choose from. And so the amount of flexibility that's offered to students in terms of the academic piece is really high in this particular scenario. These are offered during semesters or for the full academic year for students. And then we also have our Pitt Recognized programs. So these are facilitated by third-party organizations that have been vetted by the university to ensure that they meet Pitt standards, both for academics, but also, and very importantly, health, safety, and security. And these are designed to complement the Pitt developed portfolio of programs. Students receive transfer credits on Pitt Recognized programs. And the big distinction here is that tuition and fees are paid directly to the program provider, not to the university. And these are also offered during semester and summer. So the overarching goal of our portfolio is really to have flexibility of choice for students, and that is based on academic interest area, that is based on geographic region, and that is based on timing. So we have everything from 1 week-long programs to full year programs. We really work to design opportunities to meet students at any kind of point in their academic career, and meeting sort of their needs in terms of the academics and other things that they have planned for themselves throughout their time as a Pitt student. In terms of the academic experience, all of our programs are offered for academic credit. Credit is assigned for all Global Experiences Office programs. Programs are designed to be academically rigorous. One of the favorite things I hear from students, maybe not favorite for them, but I love it, is like, that was really challenging. Like, my classes were super hard. Great. It is an academic experience first and foremost. And we really want students to have that rigorous academic experience, just as they do here on campus. The courses can and should fulfill degree requirements for students. And so to that question I answered earlier, fulfilling things like general education requirements, but also major, minor, and certificate requirements, capstone experiences, that experiential learning piece, these are all really important considerations and part of the advising conversation that we're having with students in preparation to, selecting the program that's the best fit for them based on their academic interests and needs. I've mentioned experiential learning a few times, and it's really an important component of the work that we're doing here at the university more broadly, but in particular in the global education space, is to allow students the opportunity to have direct application of the things that they're learning in the classroom in real world scenarios, real world settings. And so a lot of our programs embed professional development opportunities into course goals and objectives. A lot of our programs have opportunities for things like international internships, global internship placements, research, which is a really wonderful thing to have in an international program portfolio, consulting and service learning projects where students are engaging directly with community-based organizations, NGOs, for-profit companies abroad and working on a project, which is really meaningful, and great real-world experience for students. And then, shadowing and mentorship opportunities in terms of some of the health sciences, for example. We have some opportunities where students are engaging with healthcare professionals in a meaningful and safe way, and they're able to kind of see what day-to-day life looks like for some of our professionals there. So again, these are just a few examples, but this part of the learning experience adds a lot of value to the overall global program and is really important to our office. So very much a highlight of our program portfolio. And to the sort of end of all of this, thinking about the academic and professional learning, at the end of the day, we're really working with students to help integrate professional skills into this experience. And so these come directly from, talking with employers and corporate partners that we have here, but things like flexibility and self-reliance, intercultural and interpersonal communication, problem-solving skills, language skills. These are all really important to have these transferable skills in a modern workforce, and these are things that we really work closely with our partners on site to develop for our students and help the students understand and realize the things that they're developing in addition to their academic learning on our programs. All right, I'm going to pause here really quickly. I'm going to move into cost, financial aid, and scholarships. But Summer, is there anything about programs specifically that would be good to answer at this point?
Yes, we do have a couple, and then lots of finance questions. So we're
Yes. Okay. Well,
definitely
we'll maybe answer those
good.
after. Yeah.
Yes. A broad question is, what kind of support is available for students when they are abroad?
Sure, it's a great question, and I'll talk a bit about this in the health and safety component of what we'll be talking about a little bit later. But we work with trusted partners abroad, so we are also here. Just to kind of reiterate, we work with students throughout the duration of their time, and that includes while they're abroad. So we are also always checking in with students available as resources. We have trusted partners abroad that are on-site support for students, and so that includes pretty much in most cases, everything that you would come to expect from the University of Pittsburgh experience in terms of student services support. We also have, of course, university-sponsored health insurance that provides not only physical but also, mental wellness resources and support for students, and we're here to help students navigate that process. So there's a lot of, on-site support and then also institutional support for students while they are abroad. So that's kind of a high-level answer to that question. Um, and hopefully that's good for now.
Wonderful. Next question. You talked a little bit about experiences ranging from a week to a year. This
Mhm.
is a question for our students who also need to participate in a co-op program for their
Sure.
major. Can they also participate in study abroad? How common is that? And does that impact the timing of graduation?
It's a great question. And so we've had many students that have done co-op experience and been able to do a study abroad experience as well. We oftentimes will see, students in the professional schools doing some of these like embedded spring semester courses, like I mentioned before, where they're working on like a consulting project and they travel over spring break abroad to, meet with their client and so on and so forth. And that's a little bit of a flexible option for students. Or we may see students participate in one of our first year programs. And so we have a portfolio of programs for students that happen the May after they finish their first year here on Pitt's campus that are really designed for professional development exposure to particular industries. So I'm thinking about a couple of our programs that are a partnership between our School of Business and our Swanson School of Engineering. And so students may do that because it's a 2-week program, it's great exposure, and then they like it so much that they're like, I want to do an international co-op if that's an option. So there's a lot of ways that students can fit that in. And so my general advice with these types of questions is like, if this is something that your student is interested in pursuing, no time is too early to start talking to, academic advisor in our office about how, this looks. We can make a lot of things work if we have time to plan and really think about like, when are these things happening? If your graduation goal is X date, let's work backwards from that and figure out where these different things can fall into place. So I love when like first semester students come to our office and they're like, I'm not thinking about study abroad right now, but I want to do this at some point. Here's what I'm thinking about. And then we can engage the academic advising team and really have some good conversations and pre-planning. I always find that to be a really helpful piece of advice. So that would be just something I would broadly share with all of you.
Wonderful. Two more questions for this
Sure.
section. Is a student limited to, oh my goodness, let me start over. Is a student limited to how many global experiences they can have? This person's son is interested in a 3-week summer program next year, but could he then still participate in a lengthier program later?
Absolutely. There is no limit. I mean, obviously there's limits because this is a time-bound thing. I'm pretty sure you don't want your child to be in, the university forever. So there aren't any limits from our perspective. We've had students that have done, I think the most that I've ever been aware of is a student who's done 5 experiences in their time. That's probably, an outlier for sure, but it is absolutely not uncommon for our students to do multiple experiences. And in fact, exactly what you've just described is really pretty common for a student to do a shorter term program, with the goal of doing a semester long, more immersive experience down the road. So no limits from our perspective. Again, we spend a lot of time working with students and advising and making sure that it makes sense for them academically and that we're working with their academic, team as well to do that. But it's absolutely possible. And we love that. It's encouraged from my perspective for sure.
Wonderful. And then last question, so we can keep moving, is can students who haven't declared a major yet still study abroad, maybe in the summer after their first year?
Absolutely. It is not a requirement to declare a major. We have many, many programs that, first and foremost are fulfilling general education requirements. So students are still able to continue on, progress without having to go, deeply into any area of specialization. It really depends on, the student when they want to do something like this. And we work, with students again to kind of make that happen. But that is not a prerequisite to be kind of declared into a major. And in fact, a lot of students will study you know, early on in their academic career and do kind of maybe one of those more general education type of programs. So they're still fulfilling, requirements for the University of Pittsburgh. It's still, fulfilling those types of things that they need to do, but it's not specific to their major. So lots of different options, both, more broad global context and then more specific to the academic area. And we tend to see specificity increasing as students progress in their academic career, which just makes sense, right? So as you get further along, you maybe have more specific needs and you're looking for a program that's more, germane to your academic area. And then we do have a lot of students that do more of the general programming, and that's all great. And we can work with any student within that spectrum. All right, I think I will talk a little bit here about costs, financial aid, and scholarships. The slide's been up forever though, so you've probably seen everything here, but I'll just touch on a few things, and then I'm sure we have a few questions to answer live about costs and so on and so forth. So all of our programs, I mean, costs really differ by program. Later on in my slides here, I have a direct link to our website. You're very welcome and encouraged to take a look at all of the program pages. They detail program costs broken down by tuition and program fee. And then each program page is going to detail inclusions of the program. So some programs have flights included, some do not. Some have, a lot of meals included, some may not. But generally speaking, these costs would include things like lodging, of course, and then all of the student services support and things of that nature. So each program page is going to really detail that. Program costs are dependent in some regard on region of the world of study, cost of living, and so on and so forth. So it's hard. I don't want to get too specific here since we have a broad audience, but you're very welcome to check out those types of things. I would also want to highlight that we work really closely with the Financial Wellness Center and students to assist with utilization of existing scholarships and aid. Generally speaking, aid packages can be used for study abroad programs. Like I said, we work really closely with our colleagues in financial aid to support students in that way. We do a number of workshops for students as they're preparing to commit to programming. The Office of Financial Aid has drop-in hours for our students to come in and get clarification and ask questions. And so that's something that we work with students on an individual basis on, really closely with financial aid. In addition to existing aid and scholarship packages, the Global Experiences Office and our affiliated offices award around $500,000 in scholarship funding annually for global programs. So we have, scholarship opportunities for students. University funding opportunities are available via Pitt Funds Me, which is the university's platform for scholarships. There are also national scholarship opportunities and scholarship opportunities through partners abroad that exist. And so this is a big part of our advising conversation with students, is not just the sort of academic experience piece, but a lot of, what can we do to help support students in identifying funding opportunities if this is a goal of theirs. So I just wanted to mention that briefly. I will also mention we have a number of programs in our semester program portfolio that are sort of mirroring cost of attendance at the University of Pittsburgh. And so our goal is really to have options that do not exceed what students would typically expect to pay for their cost of attendance here for a semester at Pitt as well. So, there's always a lot of questions about cost. I'm happy to answer anything live that's coming through the chat here, Summer, but this is really something that's kind of individual level support from our office and pulling in some of our university resources to help support as well.
Excellent. There are lots of finance questions,
Okay,
so maybe
great.
we'll
I had a
hold them.
feeling.
We have 20 open questions right now. So
Oh my gosh.
if you want to continue through to the content, then maybe we can marathon answer them
Okay,
at
cool.
the
Yeah,
end.
if you want to think about some overarching themes, I will, we can do that. So I will keep rolling through the next couple things. And then the next thing after this is health and safety. So I'll pause before we get into that so we can deal with some of the finance questions. Just a general sense of application requirements and timeline. Students have to apply to our programs and then they are accepted into our programs essentially the semester prior to the experience. So for students who are studying abroad this upcoming spring semester, their application timeline and acceptance timeline happened in October primarily. And so for summer, students will have an application deadline of January 20th and then commit to the programs by mid-February. And then we spend the remainder of time prior to the program departure date doing mandatory orientations and all of the kind of preparation and support that we have for students as they prepare for their program. General application requirements, and some of these can be program specific, but just to give you a sense in general of what we are assessing and asking of for students is a minimum GPA requirements, a clear disciplinary record on campus, And then students must be in degree seeking student status. And those are kind of the general sort of overarching application requirements from our perspective as well. And that's really all I had for kind of this piece of things. So Summer, let's have at it with some of the questions that are coming through here. Let me see here. Let me pull up the Q&A.
Yeah, so one that's come through a couple times is study abroad eligible for the Pitt staff or faculty tuition benefits?
Yes. So for those whose students receive tuition remission, yes. If they are participating on a Pitt developed program or an exchange program, essentially any program that would be billed through the University of Pittsburgh would be eligible for that tuition remission piece. Yes.
All right, we've got another question a little bit about health and safety. Will UPMC health insurance work abroad, or do they need to buy a new one for their duration of time abroad?
So we will provide university-sponsored international health insurance for students for the duration of their study abroad program. So I'll talk more about that later, but we will provide that insurance information to students. They do not need to purchase anything additionally unless it's a requirement for additional visa requirements, which can sometimes happen, or they will be doing an extended personal travel before or after the program because the university insurance will cover for the dates of the academic program itself. But we do provide that, and it is a very important part of our health, safety, and security orientations that are mandatory for students before they travel. So they get all of that information in advance of the program departure date.
Excellent. Are scholarships based on need or merit? Are there any 100% scholarships which include travel and lodging?
So scholarships in general, both need and merit. And so it really depends on the parameters of the scholarship. 100% scholarship is generally uncommon from one funding source. It's not uncommon for students to receive more than one scholarship, though, that can help support their experience. So my advice to students, and when we're working with students, is always to cast a wide net and to kind of explore every and any option that they're eligible to apply for. And I've seen students, really be able to pull together a really nice funding package and kind of in that way. So.
Excellent. We've got some families on who have students departing in spring 2026 to
Yes.
a program. When
Okay.
can they expect that bill to hit their PIT pay?
Yes, absolutely. So we follow a university billing timeline for our programs as well. And so for those of you who have students that are participating on, our Pitt developed programs, maybe the, Pitt and Florence program or something like this, that will be billing through Pitt Pay, that notification of bill, I believe, will be going out next week. And so with that, it's the same kind of thing that happens with, your sort of standard billing with enrollment on campus. So working with Student Payment Center on payment plan and so on and so forth. So that'll be forthcoming within like the next week to 10 days. I don't remember the exact date. I think it might be the 19th, but we can look into that. But if your student has any questions about that, absolutely send them our way and we'll talk through all of that. But yes, we will follow and these programs will follow the university's billing cycle and timeline and due dates and all of that as those students were enrolling, for a semester on campus. For those of you that may have students that are doing a Pitt Recognized program, all of that, financial piece happens directly with our third-party providers and not through the institution. So that would be program specific and sort of at the discretion of our third-party providers. But we are happy to work with students to get answers to questions about any of that as well.
Excellent. And then an overarching question that seems to be coming through is how can students schedule with an advisor in your office to
Yes,
get
absolutely.
personalized attention?
Sure. So a number of different ways. And so we have appointments available for our advisors on Pathways, which is the university site that students use to schedule, in most cases, also with their academic advisors. We also have drop-in advising in our office. And so we encourage students to drop in with any particular questions. And then I have a slide at the end here that has our website. Our website has an advising tab that I recommend students go to, and then they're able to select their home school. So if School of Business, it will have instructions on advising appointments and drop-in hours and so on and so forth. And so, there's a variety of different ways that can happen, but welcome to drop in with any kinds of questions or schedule a formal advising appointment on Pathways, and our website has all of that instruction on how to do that.
Excellent. Still lots of questions coming in. We can keep holding some as we keep moving
Okay.
through. The one that maybe if you just want to reiterate, we've got some requests for deadlines, both the deadline for spring, summer, and then some would like to know if they can go ahead and apply for a fall program already.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'll speak about this year because we're in it right now. So spring deadline of programs has already passed, but for summer we are actively, in our application phase for summer programs. Application deadline for most of our summer programs is going to be January 20th. So still have some time, and in fact, a lot of students be prepared, families and parents. A lot of students will spend time over the Thanksgiving break talking about our programs, and so good conversation for the dinner table, so to speak, for summer programs. For students that are interested in our first year programs, that deadline is in early December. So that one's a little bit earlier. And looking forward to fall, application deadline is not until the middle of March. And so for most of our fall programs, I believe our applications will be opening next week for that. So we'll send out, email messaging and social media marketing about all of that. Some of them may also already be available for application. So yeah, absolutely. Fall applications are ongoing. It's just that cycle is going to be a little bit longer since our application deadline isn't until March. So plenty of time there. And then if we're looking forward to next academic year, we launch our applications the week before the fall semester starts. So students will be able to initiate applications primarily for spring break, and summer programs starting that third week of August. And then the next upcoming deadline for next academic year cycle of programs would be end of September, early October for our spring program deadline. So just to give you a sense, the date may change, by a day or two here or there, but we generally keep the same, general time frame for those application deadlines. All of that information is also published on our website, and each individual program page has the application deadline for that particular program on it. I also see a couple of questions, and then I'll move on here just in the interest of time. But I see a few questions in the Q&A about tuition fees and study abroad. So just to clarify, for our programs that are, that are Pitt developed programs billed by the University of Pittsburgh, the tuition rate is the same. So in-state tuition, out-of-state tuition, that does not change. Program fee, housing, et cetera, might look a little bit different depending on, location and so on and so forth. But the tuition portion of the program fee is, always the same as University of Pittsburgh tuition would be for in-state and out-of-state students. All right, I'm going to keep rolling through. I'm talking a little bit here now about preparing and supporting your student in getting ready for a global experience. And then I'll try to move quickly through this so we can have some time to wrap up on all of our questions here. But thank you all so much for the engagement. I really appreciate the questions and the opportunity to talk to you all, and keep the questions coming. Thank you. Okay, so health, safety, and security abroad. I really want to touch on this because it is the highest priority of our office for the programs that we run to be, meeting the university standard, of course, for health, safety, and security. There is, of course, an inherent risk in international travel. That is the case whether you're going on vacation or doing study abroad. But I just wanted to give you all a sense of some of the things that we do in the Global Experiences Office, but at the University of Pittsburgh more broadly, to mitigate risk and emphasize student safety. So first and foremost is working with trusted partners and providers overseas. We have a detailed process for vetting providers and partners. Every partner has to meet that standard before we'll even work with them. And in many cases, we are operating programs abroad with partners, university partners that we've been working with for over 30 years. And so there's a deep amount of trust and relationship building that has gone into those programs. We have strict standards for housing, and so all of our housing is also vetted, and student safety being paramount to that as well. Performing yearly site visits and program audits, both academically and for health, safety, and security, to ensure that our partners are meeting those expectations. We train all of our faculty and staff that accompany students on study abroad programs in mandatory best practices abroad trainings every single year. So if you are a faculty member who's been working with us for 10 years, you are required to go to this training every single year regardless. And so that's a really important part of the additional support that we embed into our preparation. We also have mandatory health, safety, and security orientations for students in advance of travel. And this is where we talk a lot about preparation for health, safety, and security. We talk about the university-sponsored health insurance and all of those important pieces of information. We monitor all U.S. Department of State and international SOS advisories, alerts, and warnings. International SOS is our duty of care provider and our security provider, and I work really closely with them on monitoring worldwide events and ensuring that we're taking appropriate action there. We maintain a 24-hour day, 365-day a year study abroad emergency hotline that students, families, providers, anybody that's working with any of our University of Pittsburgh programming has access to and can call at any point in time. And those are just, a handful of things that we are doing, day to day to ensure that we are focused on student health, safety, and security in our experience. I will also mention university level, we have a global risk health, safety, and security committee that is at the authorization of the Office of the Provost and is charged with providing, a forum for weighing in on global matters that impact the university community. For the perspective of our student programming, every single program that we're offering has been approved by this committee. And so this is the first level of, sort of approval that is required for any new program that is being developed and is a, high standard to make sure that we're meeting, these goals and creating programming with this in mind. We oftentimes will have students doing independent research or travel abroad outside of the auspices of, a sort of developed program. And in any of those cases, the committee also will approve travel to those programs and those locations. And then, of course, serving in an advisory role in times of crisis or rapid response. And I just mentioned this to let you know that there are a lot of folks at the University of Pittsburgh that are engaged in this work, and it's a really important part of what we do and what my role on the team specifically is really in engaging in this space. I mentioned before in an answer to one of the questions, and thank you for asking that, international health insurance. We do provide university-sponsored international health insurance coverage for the duration of time that students are on their program. These services include, your sort of standard, my stomach hurts, I might need to go to the doctor, I have a sore throat, to, more intensive needs, hospital visits. We also have support not only for, physical emergent issues, but also mental health and wellness needs, care for any and all emergent health issues. And in the event of a more serious medical or, other kind of situation, any medically required repatriation or evacuation services, these things would be covered in our insurance plan. We also, as I mentioned, engage International SOS as our duty of care provider for all of our, global initiatives, including our study abroad programming. And our duty of care provider gives a lot of great resources in travel safety and security advice, as well as manages our 24/7 health and safety line. This is something that we encourage students, depending on their needs and support, to engage, prior to travel on any kind of, support that they're anticipating needing, so we can make sure that we have, appointments set up in advance, that we're making connections and getting them, settled in and have that kind of additional layer of support. And these are things we can do in advance of the program starting. So it doesn't need to be like, oh, we have to wait until we're on site and something's happening to use this service. We are also able to engage with our duty of care provider and our insurance organization and get things set up in advance as well. So really, this is an important part of our preparation to students before they go on their program. And then I wanted to just kind of close here with some, questions that I get when I talk to parents and families about, how you can support your student in navigating these processes. We will communicate directly with students throughout all of the phases of our process. We do encourage students to share all of the information that we're providing, with their families, their parents, and so on and so forth. So talk with them. I think it's very fair to help them identify questions that they may have and help them kind of make those connections, direct them to our office, and we will, work with the students in that regard. I don't ever want a student to feel like they can't ask us questions directly, either via email or stopping in. So please encourage your students to do that. And then we have a lot of information on our website. And so I encourage you to take a look not only at the program pages, which are going to provide information about each individual program that we're offering, but there are also a number of pages that provide health and safety resources, preparing for travel abroad, a lot of just variety of things that may be useful. So you're very welcome to look at, all of that information, and utilize that as well. And that's available for anyone to take a look at. All right. And then just some resources here. As I mentioned, our website has a lot of information. If you're interested in kind of more broadly thinking about preparation in study abroad, a couple of resources here that may be of interest for study abroad, health, safety, and security in preparation, and then our email address here for any additional questions. Happy to navigate those as well. So I've saved some time on purpose for wrapping up our questions. I'll leave this slide here in case you want to take down any of this information. But Summer, what do we have going on here? Let me.
Yeah, so you covered so much amazing information. And I think a lot of our questions were answered. We do
Great.
have one about, are there any specific programs on artificial intelligence related to study abroad?
That's a really interesting question. We do have programs that have courses that embed that. We don't have anything specific with that right now as a theme, but I can tell you that is something that I have been talking about with some of our academic areas. And so we are looking to develop some programming specifically in that space. And so I should also mention that we will have the summer is usually our prime time to be kind of developing new programming and getting it ready to go. And so for students that are looking for additional programming opportunities, or they may hear from their faculty or academic units that a new program is underway, those will be ready for application, at the start of next academic year for the things that we'll be developing this summer. And so we are in talks about something more specific, because that is absolutely a very important and super interesting global issue that is something that we are certainly looking into having some direct programming for students there. But we do have a number of programs that have a course that would offer some complement to that beyond other things that students would be doing on site. So yes and no, but more in the works soon for that level of specificity around AI. It's a great question.
Wonderful. We have another question. If my student is living off campus or in a residence hall next fall, but does a full spring semester abroad, are they charged for on-campus housing, or they assumed they could sublet off campus for the spring semester?
So I can't speak as much to the off-campus housing piece, because again, that's not really, I mean, that's really dependent on, lease agreements and so on and so forth. But I can answer the question absolutely about residence hall and on-campus housing. We do have a housing release for students that would be studying abroad for the semester. So no, they wouldn't be charged, their housing, residence hall here on campus. We would release them from their housing contract for on-campus students.
Wonderful. Sorry, just scrolling through all the questions.
Taking a look too.
Yeah, we've got some. This family, their son did a program 2 years ago, had a fabulous experience. It's wonderful,
Great.
Diane. Thanks for sharing.
I love
Um,
that.
a few more about housing, so hopefully everyone heard that. Here's
It's something
one that
that,
generally, how
yeah.
competitive are these
I just
opportunities?
saw that one. I was just going to say,
Yeah.
I'm scrolling through now too. So it's a wonderful question, and it really depends on the program. So generally speaking, the way that I, like to talk to students about this is you're kind of competing with yourself. So like we want students to put a lot of thought into their application, to really think about articulating, how this program's a good fit for them academically, professionally, personally. That being said, there are a number of programs that have just space capacity, and so that those programs can tend to be a little bit more competitive, so to speak, because we just have limited seats available for students there. If we have students that are applying for those particular programs, and in all honesty, in terms of the types of programs, we tend to see a number of our health sciences programs have, wait lists or be a little bit more competitive in that regard, just because, if we're thinking about a clinical experience, we can't take 50 students into a hospital setting. That's very disruptive. So like there just tends to be, more limitations in terms of numbers and those types of programs. We will work with those students individually on identifying, additional options that they might consider that have similar academic experience. And so we really work closely with students to identify, what's your first choice, what's your second choice, And some of our programs do have wait lists, and we work with students on those wait lists to identify additional opportunities. But by and large, most of our programs are widely available, and we just want students to be really thinking carefully about the program they're selecting and how it aligns with their goals. And if students are meeting our requirements, we really want to be able to send them on the program. So kind of a non-answer, but it really depends on the program and so on and so forth. But I would encourage a student to come talk to us if they have any questions about the particular program they're interested in, and we'll certainly advise on, it might be a good idea to have, another option, and let's talk through what those might look like.
Wonderful. We do have a couple of questions from people around their student may be eligible to graduate this spring, but is considering delaying graduation to have a global experience. Is that possible? What does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. And so again, this is something that we would want to really talk directly to the student and their academic, unit about, just to make sure that, everyone's on the same page in terms of what needs to happen. It is not uncommon for, a student to say like, hey, I really want to do this program in May. If could I extend my graduation to August instead of April or May, and do that? Yes, absolutely. That's certainly possible. Sometimes it can take, depending on programming, it can take some time for us to get transcripts back from abroad. So that's really where we want to have a conversation about the specific program that the student is considering, and then just sort of, what happens from there, just to set that reasonable expectation and figure out what we can do. But yes, we do absolutely have students that would do something like that, and kind of change their graduation date to August to be able to accommodate a study abroad experience.
Excellent. We also had a question about if they are doing a summer experience, but were eligible to graduate in May and they're just waiting for those grades. Can they still walk in May's commencement?
That's a really good question. I'm gonna have to check in on that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you know Alex, just from any of the conversations that you've had with students. I don't want to give any misinformation. And certainly it's not the Global Experiences Office like call as to like when students are able to walk. So I want to say yes, but I'm not 100% sure. So we're going to take a quick look into that, and just make sure, fact check me, Alex, if you know.
Typically, I just recommend reaching out directly to the registrar's office just to
Yeah,
get
that's a good call.
approval.
Yeah,
Excellent. I love that. Yes,
thank
we're
you.
here. I always appreciate that we take our time, make sure we get you the right information, the entire point of these webinars. Here's a question about, are there any air travel discounts associated with any programs, or are students to figure out what are the best flights for them?
Yeah, it's a great question. So some of our programs do have group flights included, and so those are typically like our first year programs that are shorter term, or if we are doing a spring break program that's kind of embedded in an academic course. Most of our programs, however, students are able to make arrangements on their own. And what we would typically do in a situation like that is say, you need to arrive by 2 p.m. on May 15th. However you want to, get there is completely within your purview, as long as you're kind of arriving within, that arrival window or whatever it may be. And then same thing on the other end, you have to vacate your program housing by noon on July 17th, but everything from there on is up to you. If you're planning on doing some independent travel after, great. You can make your flight arrangements accordingly. So typically that's what that looks like for most of our programs. We'll provide kind of an arrival window and date and sort of an end date, and then, making arrangements individually is what we charge the students with. And so anything like, different airline statuses or like preference and, whatever that might look like, you would be within, your ability to kind of make those arrangements accordingly. The exception, of course, being for the programs that have like the group flight included in the program, we will make those arrangements.
Wonderful. Question about, are any global experiences available for graduate students?
Yeah, so graduate students, absolutely. And that tends to be really more driven by the student's academic department. We don't have as many kind of what I would call standard study abroad programs for graduate students. A lot of graduate students will be doing professional, work abroad, or, research towards dissertation, or, just sort of research in general. And so we tend to work with our graduate students on more of that kind of individual student basis in partnership with their program directly. We do have a few graduate level programs that happen, and so our Master of Business program has a study abroad program that they've developed and so on and so forth. But more often than not, it's really a kind of a work with my office, the student, and the student's academic department to support and help determine those opportunities. But certainly, yes, we do work with graduate students.
Wonderful. A question about, do any of the programs plan travel excursions for the weekends?
Yeah, so some of them do. And so that's definitely information that is included on program web pages and more specifically as students are accepted into the programs and we share more of those informational pieces for sure. So some programs will have, let's say it's a 3-week program. One of the weekends has some academic work, but also, a trip to a neighboring city that would be part of the program as well. Some of our semester-long programs will also have the option for students to opt into doing some additional excursions and travel that are already included in part of our program fees. Students also may have the opportunity to do additional arranged travel experiences for an additional fee once they're on site if they want to, but it's not required. So yes, there are programs that have that as well. Sort of the other side of that question, do all programs allow for independent travel? No, not all of them, and particularly our short-term programs are just so packed with activity that that's not really possible, but it is very common for students on our longer term programs, whether that be summer or semester, to have, independent travel opportunities that they can, kind of set up themselves. And that's completely fine from our perspective, with the caveat that the university is not responsible for booking travel for those things, nor can students receive academic credit for independent travel, but that's certainly a possibility, within the program as well.
Wonderful. Question as a follow-up, is there a webinar that is more specific once a student has been accepted, or should they just schedule a one-on-one with the advisor?
So for students, a number of different things. So once a student is accepted into a program, there's a number of touch points that they would have prior to departure with our office. One is a program agreement meeting that is mandatory, and then there's at least one, but most programs have more than one, mandatory orientation session. So that's going to cover program specific, day in the life, what to expect, the academic content, all of that kind of stuff, health, safety, and security, really location specific preparation information. And so those are the two minimum kind of requirements. And then many programs have additional, kind of meeting points prior to departure on top of that. And then, of course, we always recommend, for any questions at any point in time, the student just, reach out to us and program advisor or, myself or whomever in the office that is specific to their program can help provide additional information. There are also the first several days upon arrival on the study abroad program, very robust kind of orientation with mandatory sessions that happen throughout multiple days there as well. But every student has at least 2 mandatory meetings that they have to attend after they're accepted into the program, but more often that looks like 3 or 4 per program to get all of that important information. So both is the answer to that question.
Wonderful. Hillary, that was such a fast hour.
I know. We might need to
So much,
we might need to add another 15 minutes on this next time.
yeah, so much information. Lots of sort of follow-up questions happening in the Q&A about information that we have covered. And so I just want to point out the resources that are on the screen right now. Those are wonderful links, an email address, um, all program information. The Global Experiences website is packed with great information for students and of course for our families to help support your student in their decision and what that journey looks like. It's really exciting. We're happy to be a part of it. Hillary and Alex, thank you so much. A reminder, the webinar recording will be posted to the Pitt Student Affairs YouTube channel. Just give us a couple of days for my colleague to get that up and on to that channel so you can rewatch it. You can head there and watch some of the other webinars now if you'd like. But thank you both so much. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thanks,
Thank you so
everyone.
much.